Hello and good morning. I am so excited to chat today with some wonderful artists and how you can start getting involved into cryptocurrency. First, I just want to introduce everyone. So, first, my name is Larisha. I work on all things Cello and sharing stories that are happening within that blockchain ecosystem, and including Valora. And I also act. So I'm really excited to also be joining with some other people today. And Gab, if you could introduce yourself and state what you create.
Yes, I'd love to. Thanks, Larisha. Hi, everyone. I'm Gab. My pronouns are they, them, and I currently collaborate on projects like C Labs, working on Cello together with Larisha. My background is in design and programs, and so my work now blends community and creative, especially for the core protocol on Cello. And I love creating lots of things, and I would say right now I'm especially focused on visual digital art and kind of like experiential community projects.
Great, and thank you. And you also make some NFTs. Is that correct?
That is correct.
We'll probably go back to that in all things NFT because that has been a happening place. And then Shay, what do you do? And then also, what are you creating right now? I think you're actually on mute.
That might help if you hear my microphone. Yeah. Well, I consider myself a creative alchemist, I was saying. So right now I work with Consensus, which is like a blockchain development ecosystem. And I do experiential engagement with our dev community, as well as user experience design. So that can be all the good stuff about how can we connect the dots and help our dev community really build something really cool on the blockchain. And then also I've been an artist, a musician, singer, songwriter, producer as well now for quite some time. And so my latest project is a new band named Cleopatra Shine. And we are basically, trying to, my former band, we actually had some great ideas of how to engage our fans, like through fan experiences. And I follow people like Bjork and Imogen Heap and like Trent Reznor and all those people, Moby, all those innovators about how can we create more immersive music experiences and also help people connect the dots with helping to support an artist that you love and cut out that middleman, right? So that's kind of my backstory. And that's why I'm really excited to talk about what we're talking about today, because I think it's just another avenue to help empower our fans to support us as artists. And so it's exciting.
Totally. And Militia, can you tell us about yourself and what you're working on?
Hi, I'm Militia. God, what can I tell you? I'm an artist, a singer, songwriter, composer, producer, event creator, and experiential creator now, and filmmaker. So I've it's crazy to even list those things because I just never imagined I would do more than just sing. But they always say that your life path is never like this; it's always like this, and that's exactly what mine has been. Which is great because it's all been very exciting and like new challenges keep the fire in my belly burning. So I've been lucky that I get to work on music full time, which is like awesome. I live in New York City. I live in Chelsea, and I've just been able to create some really cool stuff over the years that I hope some of you guys check out. And mostly inspired by dark and urban gothic culture and lifestyle, and add a dash of technology, and I create immersive experiences of my music now to give the listener a more heightened experience, so they can use their senses when listening to my music. So it's music, visual, AR, VR, XR experiences now. So I'm excited to bring that more to the masses in the next year and 2022.
That's exciting, especially as things are opening up, and it's perfect for the crypto space. So they're a fun group. So I'm glad that you're
timing, Larisha, with bringing me into this, and thank you. Shay is the gateway drug for me to be involved in this space. So thank you.
Yeah, well, that's a great segue of how did you learn about crypto? So did you learn about crypto through Shay?
The first time I heard about crypto was actually through my tech guys that I work on the AR, VR, XR experience that I'm creating currently. And I mean, they're involved in, air currency, as I call it. They're involved in the, anything that's involving tech really excites them. So I enjoy the tech aspect too, but I'm kind of like a weird hybrid of both worlds, IRL and digital space. But I'm curious about things like NFTs and crypto. I like the concept of it in a way, but I can also be very Native American about it too. Like, how do you own the air? How do you own the land? How do you own the rivers? Things like that. So I'm like, how do you own the color green online? So I would love to understand it more. I'm definitely curious.
It always starts with curiosity. That's the first step.
Yes. So I'm the cat and I'm curious. Yeah. So I just trying not to get killed.
Gab, what about you? How did you learn about crypto? How did you fall down the rabbit hole, as they say?
How did the infinite question, in fact, the infinite rabbit hole. I've been interested in open finance since around 2013 when I first heard about Bitcoin. It was in 2013. I was living in Italy and randomly heard it mentioned one night on the nightly news. And I opened my first cryptocurrency account back in 2013, but took a few years to become a hobbyist. Just didn't really grok it at first. Took some time. And that's kind of where I was before I transitioned into the space more professionally in 2018. So like before C Labs, I liked to volunteer with things. I volunteered as a lead on the mentorship and development committee with the DevCon scholars. And I was an alumnus of that program. And those are the kind of things that, I love doing. And I also work with Consensus, in fact, Shay and Larisha. I worked on the grants program and some DevRel efforts. And
nice.
I was also involved in a project. It's called Mary Merkel. And we went on a trip to South Africa where we minted and sold the very first NFTs from and for a school. And this is in 2018. So all to say, I've been very involved on the community side of the space and with this bias towards not only developers, but also builders and creators since then.
2013, that's pretty OG status, I would say. Yeah, exactly. I think so. Totally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. And then Shay, what about you? How did you enter into the crypto space?
Well, it was actually interesting. It was before I was at Consensus, which is the first time I even was like really exploring about blockchain, that technology. I was actually I think it was at Fox, believe it or not. I worked there as a UX designer. And I was just trying to think, I was kind of at that point in my career where I was like looking at AR and VR. AR and VR. And now everybody's calling XR, which is kind of where we're at now. Because I was just like, how can I like take this to the next level? What's more interesting? I was looking at kind of like different interface and ways that we interact with people. And then, I don't know. And then someone who I worked with actually was like, was telling me a story about how he used to, he was like a hardcore gamer. And back when the white paper for Bitcoin first came out, I guess the gaming community is where, it was the most known, right? They were mining the coins and all that stuff, had no idea how amazing this was going to be. But he was just saying how he was kicking himself because he had like 100 Bitcoin that he had sold before it kind of went big. And so I just was like, my brain was like, I don't understand, but something here sounds interesting. And so I just went down this rabbit hole. I downloaded a bunch of audiobooks because I had a crazy commute. So that was like all I can do when I commuted. And I was just like, immerse myself in like, really, I actually went to, I started learning about Ethereum and just blockchain in general. And I just was like, there's something about Ethereum that I was like drawn to more than Bitcoin. Because I felt like that was just it didn't have the technology to really scale, which Ethereum does. And so I just really started immersing myself from an investment standpoint. I was trying to learn about investing, and like, I was like, I got to know this stuff, you know? So it just kind of got in. And then the tech was kind of like, and all of a sudden I was just reached out to about, you know, working with Consensus. And I was like, oh, the universe is positioning me. So yeah, that, and then I kind of just continued learning as I was exposed to it and the community. And it's been fascinating, but my brain has always been ticking because I have a personal project of mine about, you know, basically building an app that helps artists monetize their art. And so I was always like, how can I connect the dots with this? Maybe this is going to, you know, help me kind of, you know, that last leg of like, you know, basically accepting payment, or the, you know, the payment part of things. That's the monetization. That's the gold, right? So that's why I've always been kind of trying to figure out, you know, where things could fit. I mean, everything's flat, you know, you have the NFTs, you have all the things, blah, blah, blah. I just feel like it's so new. The context is not quite there yet, but this is our opportunity. We're kind of at a good point right now. And so once that starts settling in, I think that's going to be really exciting.
I agree. And the peer-to-peer payment, I think, is the kind of the gateway for creators to get in. So like Valora is a great one because you just have your phone number, right? I don't have to tell someone like, oh, thank you for buying my pottery. Can you like download this and all of this? And like, at least with Valora, it's what is your phone number? And that's how you can send money, and you get it instantly. And let's pretend like I get booked in Romania. Well, if they're like, how can I pay you if I do like a day shoot? They can send money, right? And I get it. I don't have to pay all of the like weird action fees of like Western Union. It's all right there on my phone. And so that's really beautiful, at least for me, because we want money soon, right? Everyone wants their money ASAP. So payment is a great one, but I'm also curious of, you know, Gab, you're doing NFTs, and if there's, you know, anything that you think else that people can support creators in the crypto way.
Well, I think this kind of ties into why someone would want to be involved kind of in crypto, but even with crypto in general too, you know. And I kind of think that they play off of one another, because when you can imagine and you have this ability to like remix and play with multitudes of things, especially things that maybe make your heart sing and like that are the joy of your work. For instance, creating, for instance, music, for instance, art, but even bigger ideas too, things like sustainability or empowerment, especially economic empowerment, social empowerment. When you kind of like go to the galaxy brain, you know, like if you let your mind wander and you can imagine, like you step into this like whole new world at that point, and you realize that like these are technologies that allow us to reimagine our relationships to worth, and NFTs like can enable us to do that. So I know that like crypto is a new field, and people around the world, like, you know, they're eager to learn maybe, or they want to like dip their toes in. And like what I would say to that, my call to adventure would be like to just play around. In fact, that's like one of my calling cards. That's one of the things I love to say, and one of the things I believe most deeply, in fact, too, is like play is the spirit of a lot of this, and we shouldn't let necessarily like the financialization aspects and the fact that this is cool tech and it just so happens that this cool tech is related to money, like inhibit us from being able to play with the tools themselves.
Mm-hmm. That is true. Melissa, I'm curious, how have you played with crypto? If you haven't, what are some ways of like, you'd be curious of what would help you think more artists start playing with crypto?
The most engagement I've had with crypto was downloading the app with Shay before this seminar.
Yeah. Honesty. It's fair enough. Fair enough.
But I was curious about it because I have to say, because I saw an episode of Euphoria on HBO where
good show.
This one character was doing like some soft core, and she was underage and she didn't want her information out there. So she was using Bitcoin, and I was just like, oh, Bitcoin's good for privacy. Good to know. Right.
Anonymity. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, it's like, oh, that's kind of great, because Obviously for me, like, I use a stage name. I don't necessarily want my real name out there to the masses. And I've gone to great lengths to protect my government identity, so to speak. So this could be another way to protect that, as opposed to other apps that exchange currency. You end up having to use your real name often.
Yeah, I think honestly, and to your first point, Larisha, I think lowering the barrier of entry is key right now, because is new. This is like when the web started happening, right? Really. And so a lot of people are just like, they think of crypto as Bitcoin and like a way to, or Dogecoin. I don't know, all that crap. They just don't understand, like, it's just basically a digital ledger. It's a database, right? So Bitcoin happens to be, a way, peer-to-peer transaction, basically. It's just another way to pay people to accept payment. But then, crypto as a whole, it's basically decentralized finance, right? DeFi. So like to Melissa's point, it's like, I really think the opportunity, and this is why I love Valora, is that if you're taking away the tech, you don't need to know anything. How can I accept payment? How can I just do what I want to do? Support artist, send my mom money, whatever, I don't know. But like in terms of artists, how can I, buy that album? How can I attend that show? How can I don't want to know the tech, and so even some people do, but most people don't, because I think that's the scary part. Because like, you just want to know that it's safe. You're not going to lose money or it's not going to go out into the ether. It's going to get to the artist intended. And then, to your point, I think a lot of people are saying, initially when we heard about blockchain, and it's like, oh, it's stuff, it's like the dark web stuff because it's anonymous and it's associated with it. But that happens to be an aspect. But like, what's most important is what you guys are doing with being able to, like, all right, mobile phones, everybody has them, even people who can't afford them, right? And so if you can make a payment just using your mobile phone, let's say you're at a show or you're just, whatever, online, or you're just talking to somebody and you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, I really want to support this artist. And they make it available for you to do it in that way. Because that's the thing. Like I've known, even before crypto, I've known artists that they would have a show or they'd be somewhere. And I'm like, okay, you're doing these things to what I call a call to action. I know it's very businessy, but you're trying to do something. You're trying to convert. What's the point of you having the show other than if you're just saying you want practice? Most people want to monetize that, right? So here's someone at the show. They loved your gig and they're like, okay, how do I give you my money? They're so excited about it. And then there's these artists that are like, oh yeah, you could sign a mailing us. I don't know, catch us at the next show. I'm like, oh my God, have a way for them to like give you their money, so this is the thing. It's like, they can be like, boom, okay. It's just like Venmo and everything else. They're making it really easy for you to make payments. So I honestly think that, like, if you can wrap it in a more layman's terms like this and just keep it kind of familiar, then people are going to start to understand, oh, I get the benefits of crypto. I get it. It's like, there's reasons why this is really cool. It's decentralized. So banks and all that stuff aren't like, and governments aren't, being the ones controlling and calling the shots. That's really nice. It really gives sovereignty to everybody. It makes everybody their own bank, which is really freaking cool. And so you're kind of an investor as a fan. So if you see it that way, you can feel more empowered. And then the artist, just make sure you have ways for people to invest in you. So that would be my take on it.
Yeah, and I want to touch on, you said something that is really resonating with me, of being your own bank. And that's like level 2 of crypto. Like level 1 is having crypto, like exchanging, right? And then level 2, and this is like a step we won't go in today, but just so you know, like, this is how deep
potential
into the crypto. Yeah. You can make money with the money that you have. And again, this is not financial advice, but there is a thing in the crypto space of DeFi where you can be your own bank and do kind of these syndicated loans, flash loans. You can lend money, and that's really detailed. But just know that on like Valora or like a MetaMask,
there's scalable.
Yeah, it's scalable. And so for some artists, they can make income while they're waiting on their next gig, right? And so that's where you can do that. Cool. And that's like another avenue, totally, which I'm curious to see if more artists will get involved. And what's interesting about the Ethereum space, and especially like Cello's coming from this too, of really appreciating artists and the gifts that they bring to the world, and making sure, like you said, people, if you want to support them globally, because I'm sure like, well, you probably have followers, like what's the furthest follower you have away? Like maybe Japan, and they like, if they wanted to support you, they'd probably have to like buy an album.
Australia,
Latin
America, all over.
I'd say like after the United States, most of my fans are from very foreign, distant countries.
Yeah, same
so
here.
Like,
right.
Yeah, so it's like kind of like, I would, when they just like even the merch example, they have to pay in their currency, but it's got to be switched to USD. It's like got all extra taxes and fees added onto it, plus like the service fee of whatever service we're using. And like there's all these extra layers, and then like ship them stuff. It's like they're paying
lots of obstacles.
So it's like barriers. So, that's something that's appealing about crypto, is that like, I guess we eliminate that in a way. I don't know.
Well, that's so I'm glad you're saying that. Yeah, absolutely. It's the idea of, being able to reduce all those, like, for example, excessive feeds, or just really hard. Some people don't even have access. Some people can't even, send money. So there's that, or receive it, depending on if you're just in a whole different kind of ecosystem there. And so, I think crypto is like leveling that playing field. However, there's still like, okay, so how do I do that with crypto? Okay, now we're talking about wallets and stuff like that. So it's almost like, how do I pay with crypto? How do I receive? And that's kind of up to like artists like us or businesses to basically make that an optional payment gateway. And so, but yeah, I do think that it's like, the two things, Larisha, when you reached out to me about this, because I didn't really know much about, to be honest, Cello, and like I had invested did a little bit beforehand. And then you told me about Valora. Of course, I checked it out, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really great, because, it is like, I have a phone. I could just text somebody, and then basically Valora does that kind of transaction you were talking about, or conversion you were talking about, Militia, where it's like, okay, maybe I'm in Spain or Australia, and like I need to like convert this money, but on my side, I see US dollars. On their side, they see whatever they need to see, and the transaction happens, and it's like, the fee is not crazy either. That's the other part. So for me, right? Is that correct? How I'm kind of seeing it?
100%. Less than a cent, and you get it within, I would say, seconds. I can't think of a transaction that I've done that has taken longer than a minute, even across the world.
Nice.
Awesome.
So then my question then, Larisha, is, okay, let's say as artists, we all want to offer this as a wallet or a way to pay, right? So what would that look like? Because like if we have like Venmo or PayPal, we put it on our site, and people can use that, or we give them our username. Is it something like that where it's a handle? Do they have to download the app? I know it's a free app, but like, what's the process?
Yeah. So you can either become a merchant, which there's a website for this, and I'll throw it on screen, so that you can add that to your website, right? So that you can so it's a Valora QR code. Someone could just like scan with their phone, and then it will pop up. And then it would just be either a phone number if you don't have the merchant thing, or you could have, we call it the fancy way, is like a wallet address, which is like many numbers and it's random, but that is also a way you can do it. And then to actually receive the funds, you do to download the app.
Okay.
To send the funds, that person, like I could literally send someone on the street funds, but they wouldn't receive them until they downloaded the app.
Okay, so the sender doesn't necessarily have to do all the work and download the app and do all the things. You're like, here's some money, but in order to receive it, you have to have the Valora app to convert that and do all the stuff, right?
I mean, you could technically probably send, but it would be easier just doing it all within Valora. Like you would have to have
Gotcha.
Yes, but just see Valora as a global Venmo, but with Venmo, like you can't be doing all these added stuff of like getting into the DeFi world.
Gotcha.
You can. And the thing is, like,
that's a good analogy.
Yeah. And so that's why it's this wonderful new like peer-to-peer payment structure. And then getting into the very broad and vibrant crypto ecosystem of all the ways of all the things that people are talking about. But I'm curious, what are for, Gab, you've been in the space a little bit of time. What do you recommend for artists if they're new to crypto of how to get involved or where to learn of just in general, just becoming more familiar with the space?
Tough question. Tough question, because we know, in fact, just how vast the space is, how many, like, it can be
new, right?
In fact, too. Yeah, it's just the amount of resources and kind of the variety, I would say, and spectrum, of where you land with some of those resources. But I think it's the best way, and what I kind of always recommend is kind of similar to what I said before, which is like just playing with some of the applications or things that you can interact with, and playing with those tools themselves. So as soon as, like, let's just say you come upon any article that even mentions crypto. So there's no shortage now, in fact, of whether it be media or press or even just blog posts, and you just hear a whisper, of crypto, and there's something mentioned as far as like an application or a web tool or a website that you can that's like mentioned there. I would encourage you to like go and play around with that, even with just like a minimal amount, like a few cents of something or even a few dollars, because it's an experience like none other, in fact, because then you're getting like deep into the weeds, but right away, like in an interactive way. And there's no better like way to learn than just in fact, like playing and experimenting and trying something. And in fact, now as we see like just how the space has grown and matured, in fact, one of the most exciting things about how the space is growing and maturing, I would add, is the users of certain applications and certain protocols, et cetera, like just by being part of that story, just by having, like used this application or have played around with this tool, then, there's things that happen that maybe like an airdrop happens, and, those folks are now like involved also in the governance of this project, or they get some other kind of reward just for having, been a user of that app.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's so much out there. Of course, you can go down the YouTube rabbit hole, but for me, I'll share how I got into it. Or actually, I agree with you, Gab. Is it Gabby? Gabrielle? Gab?
That works.
Gab? All right. So I basically, the first thing I did, and I agree with you, it should be a hands-on and you learn the best, right? So starting from, okay, we usually know about crypto from an investment standpoint. And so I basically got a Coinbase.com account, and I just started trying to understand like, okay, and really Coinbase, I'm just saying that one, there's plenty. There's Gemini, there's Kraken, there's crypto.com, I think. But Coinbase in particular, they have a way for you to learn about different coins. You can actually earn for free by just watching videos. And I actually started just learning coins and earning free coins. And then I started understanding, okay, like each time I look at something, because at first it was like alien to me, but then I learned, oh, there's tech behind each coin, or maybe there's not tech. And that's how you can decide if it's valuable or not. Because really the tokens reflect, what is their function in the community? It's like Cello, the Cello coin, it reflects like, I'm not sure if it's governance, but I know you were saying there was this ability for artists to earn while they're in between payments, essentially. So there's stuff like that. There's that kind of extrinsic value of the token. And then that's what you're kind of investing in from an investment standpoint. But you can also learn how to use it for payment and transaction by getting a wallet like MetaMask, or Valora is, like a wallet essentially, and trying to see, okay, let me send a payment. Let me purchase using, crypto if it's allowed. And then you start to see, now, obviously I wouldn't experiment with using ETH right now. It's a very expensive mistake if you tend, or, you just have to keep that in mind. But there's a great way to start experimenting on what's possible. There's like things like, swapping coins and using different coins. And so what does that mean? So the best way to do that is to kind of just like, start by downloading MetaMask or something like that, or, just go into Coinbase.com, get an account. It's all free. And then start to poke around and really learn and actually start to, maybe invest. Maybe, here's that allows you to pay with MetaMask. What does that mean? And then you start to learn, there's other things I had to learn, like the cold wallet versus the warm wallet and stuff. Basically, the cold wallet is just like having a wallet, like a ledger, just like it's basically a hard drive, and it's offline. So you just sync up your stuff so you can protect it. So like in case one of the exchanges, like Coinbase is an exchange, goes down or something happens, God forbid, you actually have your crypto protected. It's like with you under your mattress kind of thing. But then, yeah, I just like learning all that stuff. So it's kind of like there's so much to learn. I would start with like the most interesting use case for you to start with is like, I'm curious about making payments or I want to invest. And so then you start into that doorway because there's so much to learn. I mean, people can go geek out on like all the flexibility of, blockchain and what can it do. But like, yeah, I think that would be the best way to get in. And for us as artists, that's how we can also help people entry points is like putting it on our website as like an option for payment. It's like, wait, what's that? And then you kind of discover it like Militia. Basically, I was like, hey, I'm download this app. We're going to talk about it. And so now she's already in, she's in, but now it's up to her to decide, which rabbit hole to go down to.
Right. And I was actually like trying to relate it to something like, I mean, obviously the success of this depends upon how many people are using this particular app or this particular technology. Right. But it seems like it's starting to, the embers are starting to burn. Right. But something that I noticed right before pandemic shutdown, when I would do shows at like the Whiskey Go-Go, they were accepting tips for performers on stage for Ultimate Jam Night. So there'd be like something like 50 to 100 people on this jam, and there was a way for you to tip each individual musician or artist. So like this is something that could be used in that way as well. Yeah. Say you don't want to buy the t-shirt, but you still want to support the artist. I understand that. I told myself no more band t-shirts. I'm not buying them.
Yeah. So people, I mean, that's great for artists is low hanging fruit when it's like, it's just people tipping and saying, no, we just want to support you. You don't have to send us anything in return. But honestly, that's
like when I've been on the road or like doing live streams in both arenas, with the option to do, to support the artist option. A lot of people did it without having to like, they don't necessarily want to buy the CD or they don't necessarily want to buy something
super
tangible.
Effective. Yeah.
They would prefer to support I love saying air. They would love to support by air, and, at least show the love and give some kind of compensation or, whatever to the artist without having to take something home.
Yeah. And that's the thing. They're supporting you. Yeah. They're supporting us.
Experience is the
continue.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what you're exchanging there. So it's better for the artist because then it's just not the promoter paying you. It's like, no, your
direct to fan.
And you can get that support from the fan. So it's like, it's very cool.
Which is why I think Patreon is a very successful platform. Way back when they started, I was like, this is the next wave. And then this is now the next wave, what we're talking about, I think. But that was it.
You were on the tip with Patreon before like anyone.
Yeah, because I actually knew Jack Conti. He actually reached out to me because that's how old school I am. But like he invited our band at the time to be on this platform and kind of beta test it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I'm like, okay, cut to, it's amazing. I knew it was a great idea, but it was just like, and it's come a long way. But that's the thing, cutting out, like making it possible for your fans to support you directly. And actually fans love that. Like when I actually offered experiences before subscription, all that stuff was a thing. And they were expensive. There was like a $200 package or something. And because the fan knew all $200 was going directly to us, they loved it. If they think it's like Ticketmaster, if that they're going to pay $300 and then the artist gets $10 of it, then that's when they have a problem. So they want to support us. But I feel like this is just another thing. Like, for example, like you said, Militia, tip. There's a big tip button, right, on your show. When I click tip, okay, Venmo, PayPal, Valora, but these are just ways. And so, okay, now someone who may not have tip, but they're like, oh, yeah, I can pay with crypto. Cool. And then now there's someone who's you're just opening up the avenues for people to support you. And this is great because that means we're staying up with the tech. we're just making it really easy, especially because we're so online and digital now, but even in person. But it's just a way to have, like you said, show the love. Just another channel.
Does places where you can send money, like Western Union or places like that, do they accept cryptocurrency yet?
I don't know off the top of my head if they do, but I know their fees are quite high as far as like it can be up to like 10% of what you are sending, you know?
Right.
So that's where, and who knows how long it's going to take.
Or they'd hate it because of advantages to the consumer.
There's a coin. I don't know. This is new. This is all new space, Militia. So these are great questions, and we're all kind of discovering too. But there's a coin called AMP. I don't know, a token. Have you heard of that, Larisha? But apparently that is something where they're trying to solve that question, where they're providing making it easy for brick and mortars to accept crypto. So there's going to be all these protocols, and that's what she said with protocols. Basically, like there's these extensions of chains. The chains are just basically where the transaction is stamped. And then the protocols are the things like, make it possible for a brick and mortar to just go cling and take crypto or something. Or Valora, how it's like, hey, you're making it possible to send money without thinking about it. But it actually is a crypto kind of process. And it is using the Celo chain, correct? I'm trying to, if I'm saying this right. Yeah, you could probably say it best, but it's to store the data. And that's to my next question to you, Larisha. Explain to me how, let's say we receive payment from a fan. How do I cash that out using Valora?
This is a great question. So
I was just about to ask the same thing.
You have two options, and full disclosure, we are working on another option, which the other option is like, I want it straight to my bank account, which is what is being worked on. But the good news is you can still cash out through gift cards through Badali. And the gift cards for us in the US, there are like literally like hundreds, like Chipotle, Macy's, Delta, like whatever you can think of, like that's going to be, and it varies by geographic location. So you can get a gift card, or alternatively, if you're savvy enough, you can cash out to a crypto exchange, and then it will go back to your bank account. So it's just multiple steps. So that is the avenue. Whereas like on Coinbase, you could do something a little bit more direct, but then you can't, like Coinbase is just like cold holding, right? Of like, it's nothing's going to happen to it. But at least on Valora, this is a famous plug of if you just hold money in the Valora app,
right?
Yeah, they give you rewards. They literally like you earn crypto money. So you're earning money just by saving money. And so like that is a big one if you like would want to do that. So that's where we are with Valora, and we're at time. We could I'm now realizing we could do like
are we? Shoot.
Yes.
Wait, can I ask one more question to what you just said, just so I have more clarity? So there's a marketplace in which you can kind of redeem and kind of, cash out that way. But like if you're just doing like you just straight want to do a plain cash out, right? Mm-hmm. Get the dollars and cents. So you said you have to do what? I missed that part.
When there's an option in the app of withdraw, and you would have to hit crypto exchange.
So you have to pick a crypto exchange in order to do that. And then, so this is like extra step. Mm-hmm. And then in terms of earning though, so you were saying like, cause I know I've had money in there, and then it has each month, and there's a thing you can see, it will say, if you have this much, it'll earn this much, but what you were trying to say about like artists earning in between, is that what you were mentioning? Is that what it is? If you hold the money there, you don't cash out and you can let it earn, or is there another like affiliate kind of situation?
There is another. So that's like step one, where you don't have to know anything about crypto, right? Mm-hmm. And then the other steps, which maybe this will be another live stream for us, is OopSwap and Moolah Market are an example of, so like they're basically, if you know what Uniswap is on Ethereum, OopSwap is that for Celo. And so that's more of ways of kind of, I don't want to say playing with money, but it is real money. And that's the thing I want to remind people of. Crypto is real money, not monopoly money. And the other thing of just as we wrap up is, and I've been chatting with some of my friends that are actors who are like, hey, like each payment means a lot to me. So like, I don't know if I want all my payment to go to crypto. And I'm like, fair, but did you know you could buy like literally cents of crypto, or like $1 or $2? And they're like, oh, I thought you had to buy a whole entire like one Celo, or like, and I'm like, no. And so then it's like, more education of getting more artists involved, of learning that it's not all or nothing, right? It's like evaluating yourself, right? And like knowing that this technology is the next wave, and artists should be, or typically are, ahead of like most things, right? So of keeping up with the brand. So, and then one thing, like the crypto community, because these conferences are starting up again. They, like, Melissa, I will be telling people about you, of like, we love hearing live artists, having visual artists, performing artists, like at these events. So I'm excited to welcome you to the space, and I wanted to thank everyone for coming, and hopefully we can do another one of just like chatting and getting more artists involved. But thank you very much.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Larissa.
having us.
Thanks so much.
Good chatting with you.